Hi, okay, Tim Gwaine here, and this is video number 18 on my Druid Path. Um, and today's video is going to be about Mabon. Um, it's it's kind of the I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say it's the forgotten Sabbath. Um, um, most people are they're very into Yule. They love Imbolc. Um, Ostara is a huge thing. Um, um, Obviously, Midsummer, the summer the summer solstice is a huge thing. Um, the Nasa, um, all of these all of these Sabbats that are very well known, that people know, um, and particularly Samhain and Beltane are the ones that you hear most about. Lunasa tends to be one that you hear just a little bit more about than even Imbolc, um, but you don't hear a lot about Mabon, so I'm going to talk a little bit about that, what I've learned, um, what I just recently experienced, um, and what I've known, essentially. And what I've known um, has been that Mabon is, well, first of all, Mabon is the autumnal equinox, so it's all about the balance of the night and day, and it is the actual coming of um, the night. It's where the day um, gives its time to night, and I'm not explaining this very well. I'm sorry, but the story that is told in my book about the path of the Green Man. Um, the Green Man goes out into the woods, and he discovers these two boys. They are One is silver. He's white. He's touched with the light of of the moon, so to speak. He's very bright. And he's very energetic, and he's very happy. And then he runs into also a darker boy who is lit like the night. He's also very exuberant, and they are running, and he then comes across the god Hernes or Herne, who um, who is chasing the boys to take them to the grove so that they can do their half yearly dance, and they dance around the grove in a spiral till they meet each other, and the darker boy says, "It's time for you to go back to our mother and rest, and I am now going to take over and watch." Um, and I love that story because it really shows what happens. The sun and the moon have been dancing all year long, and now it gets to this point where the moon says, "Okay, you need to go, and you need to go and rest. I'm going to take over," and so that's the whole purpose behind Mabon, behind this celebration of the equinox. So, um, so that's kind of the story behind Mabon. Um, and in my book on Druidry, um, it is not called Mabon, by the way. It is the autumnal equinox, and it is called Alban Elfed, um, or Light of the Water. Um, and physically, it is the vegetable and the fruit harvest. Um, Magically, of course, you're observing the moment. You're there. You're watching the ascendancy of the dark over the light, and excuse me. And the activity is harvesting and, of course, processing seasonal fruits, such as making apple butter. And Erica in our coven made the most wonderful apple butter I've had since my grandmother passed. Um, because I ate this apple butter and immediately my thought went right to my grandmother. Um, it was it was wonderful. Yes, I cried. Um, it was it was beautiful. So we take and we process our seasonal fruits so that, of course, we're going to have food for the winter, right? Um, and then um, and then the deity is the fruitful goddess dispensing the gifts of the earth. Um, and so it's really, really it's a beautiful way of looking at the wheel of the year when you look at um, it in the terms of, say, the path of the green man. Um, I'm reading the book, and of course, I'm a little bit off um, from the actual year right now because I um, started reading it right after Lunasa, and about a month before Mabon, and it begins at Yule. So I'm a little off. Reading ahead on the holidays. Basically, I could just read the book and I'd be fine. So at any rate, that's Mabon. Our celebration was at Morgan's on Saturday night, which was Mabon. Um, and I was dedicated into the coven, and it was absolutely beautiful. So we we actually went around and we talked about something in our lives that was equally light and dark, and not necessarily good and bad, not necessarily evil versus blessed, but just simply light and dark. I'm finding more and more, particularly as I read a particular book. Well, actually, I'm listening to it on Audible book series. Um, Light doesn't necessarily always equate to good, and darkness doesn't always equate to evil. Sometimes, sometimes we need the darkness. I mean, night is dark, and we definitely need nighttime. Even if we don't need it, it's there. It happens. It's what happens in the circulation, or the orbit of rotation of the Earth. That's the word I was looking for. Um, it just happens with the rotation of the Earth. So um, so darkness isn't always a bad thing. The new moon isn't. Um, I a bad thing. The new moon is just the fact that the moon is being shadowed by the earth. That's it. Um, the full moon isn't necessarily a good thing. In fact, many people think that sometimes it can influence in a negative way. So we've got to be careful about equating um, light with good and dark with evil, because it's not always that. So look at things and look at how a dark spot in your life could very well be bringing good into your life. Um, I'm struggling now with even trying to ensure that I've got clients coming in enough to even pay for my chair, but it's not necessarily an evil thing. It's not necessarily even a bad thing. It's just a dark thing that I'm going through, that I'm trying to move forward. So you've got to get through the night before you get to the day, right? So that's kind of where Mabon is. And so what we were doing was doing that sort of exercise of looking at things, both the light and the dark. And of course the dark that I talked about was definitely that, was trying to ensure that I've got money even to simply just pay for my chair on a weekly basis, much less for other things. And the light is, well, my Druid Path. Um, um, I've never felt the way I feel, um, even even at the very beginning of my being a fundamentalist Pentecostal Christian. I didn't feel this way. I didn't actually. There was no connection. See, there's a connection with nature. There's a connection with the old man. Even going to do another video about what happened last night. But there's a connection with the old man that I have that I never got with the Sky Genie. No matter how much I knelt down and prayed, or knelt at the altar, or prayed in tongues, or whatever, I never felt that connection. I never had a connection to the Christian God the way that I have a connection with nature right now. Um, I grew up in the woods, so growing up in the woods, I think that's why being a druid is so natural for me. I grew up on 7¼ acres, and then my best friend all through school, his parents owned 7½ acres, so I grew up on almost 16 acres of nothing but woods. Um, Not to mention all of our other friends that lived not too far away from us on Mount Brinion, um, who also had acres and acres of property and woods to go by. And we had logging roads that we went on, and we discovered nature is a part of who I've always been. So of course I'm going to have a little bit more of a connection to that than some Sky Genie that if I pray just the right way and I live just the right way, and God forbid I should ever say words like shit or fuck. Um, um, so so it's a different type of emotion that I'm feeling. So, needless to say, on Mabon, I could barely contain my emotions. I was getting dedicated into the coven, and let me see if I can get this. Um, this right here is the dedication cord, and of course I put it on my staff from the old man. So, yes, my druid staff now has my dedication cord tied onto it, along with some leaves from the old man and even some acorns from the old man. So, um, everything on, and even including the staff from the old man. Um, and in case you didn't catch from some of my earlier videos, if you haven't seen those videos, the old man is an oak tree that's in the middle of the central park in our city, Lake Sacagawea, and I discovered that I really connect with this oak tree to the point where he's the old man, um, and the old man is he's given me a lot of strength and a lot of energy. Um, so at any rate, that was our Mabon. I told everybody there that if this is what I did at Mabon, and apparently I don't know because I've never been a part of a Samhain ritual. Um, so if this is what it's like at Mabon and Samhain is more intense, I'm going to be more than likely a blubbering, snotting, crying mess. So, but I guess if they're okay with it, so am I. I'm going to go for now. I'm going to get this uploaded, exported, all that I need to do to get it done. And then I'm going to make another video about last night because I think it's important to separate these two. Mabon is it's a Sabbath that is too important to lump together with an Esbat. So I really wanted to talk about Mabon. I wanted to talk about how we tend to forget it, and I really liked the story that was given in the book on the Path of the Green Man. I like the fact that these two boys are ancient but still young. It kind of gives me hope as an old man, and that I could be ancient and I still could be young and I still could enjoy that hunt, and still could be serious enough where I can do what I need to do and do my job, and focus on that balance between light and dark. And that's what I really love about this week, is that right now we're seeing that balance. A couple of days before Mabon, a few days after, we're kind of seeing that balance, and we're seeing the switch. We're seeing it switch toward the dark. We've had our 6 months of light and the growth of light, and then the beginning of the waning of light, and now it's to the point where it's going to become the dominion of darkness, and that doesn't mean evil. It just means that dark is now going to take over, so that the sun can rest. That's the whole purpose of it. And scientifically speaking, we all know that it's the rotation of the Earth, it's the axis, and it's the orbit of the Earth around the sun. We all get that. We all know that. We all understand it. But it's a wonderful way of looking at it, and it's a wonderful way of just kind of celebrating the seasons. And that's really, isn't that what we do with Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter? All of that comes from our pagan traditions of Lunasa and Mabon and even Samhain and Yule and Ostara. um, in bulk. Um, so we need to understand that every single one of our holidays, even the Jewish holidays, are all about celebrating the rotation and the axis of the Earth and its progression around the sun and all of that. So so let's remember that it's all about celebrating the science. It's it's our way of celebrating what's going on in the science, and then looking at our lives and realizing that there are certain things that we need to do in our lives, and all of that is natural. We, I, I don't, I don't separate the science of what really goes on in the world and what's happening in the universe. I can't separate that from my Druid path. Um, as a Christian, I had to compartmentalize all of that. But when I look at the science of everything, and then I look at Druidry, um, I'm actually celebrating the science, and and that's a good thing. So that's that's really what Mabon is about. Is right now we are at that point where now we are going on the other side of the sun, and the axis of the Earth has gone toward the other side of the sun from where we were during the summertime. So we are progressing along. I think I think that's awesome. I enjoy the fact that we are now in the autumn, the autumnal equinox, and heading toward Samhain, and then eventually Yule, the winter solstice. So winter solstice is where then we will begin to see the sun coming back. So we'll be heading back around toward the other side toward the vernal equinox and Ostara, where we will then begin to see the days um, get longer. Um, so Ostara is again an equinox where we're going to see a balance again and look forward to the light coming. So um, said all that to say that let's have a great season. Let's enjoy this quarter trip around the sun to the point where we then see Yule, and let's just enjoy these seasons, and let's understand that we can celebrate the science of what happens because that's natural. Um, we can actually be natural and celebrate the natural and and use the magic of nature and know that it's scientific. So I'm going to shut up now. Y'all blessed be, and let's have a great season.